Hello and welcome to the Rat Nest Podcast, episode number 70 with Hank Simmons.
Hey,
Hey,
Hank.
thank you guys for having me. I feel like a veteran at this point, like a
You're the
like a
you run.
Vietnam art veteran. I've been here 3 times.
OG wrote it. You've been on episode 3, 20 something, and now 70.
Hell yeah.
You're tied with rodent status with David Moses being on 2 individual episodes himself and then one group episode.
That's right.
But you guys are the only
Which
two.
is an honor.
Yeah, dude. He's a fucking killer.
David Moses is a legend. He's one of the most phenomenal like independent comic book artists in Raleigh.
Yeah,
Bro.
honestly, I just had a nice chat with him, and he was bringing your name up too. He was just like super stoked on everything you're doing with Holy Mountain and how you've just been crushing the game. So that's awesome, man.
So he's forgiven all the death threats.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He said for a while there you weren't friends because you were sending him anthrax to his house, and he didn't know how to take that.
Yeah.
His kids.
I just wanted to be his son. I just, I was just like, I'll hang out. I got trespassed out. I kept showing up. I don't learn a lesson, but we're good now.
Nice.
Right. I think you said that the restraining order expired, so you should be good to go over there now.
Yeah, they don't last forever, boys. They don't last forever.
You would know.
Trust me, I've gotten a couple.
Man, how you been?
Yeah, man, it's so good to see you, bro.
I've been good, man. It's been a crazy year and some change, but I've been good. I moved out of that piece of shit apartment. Me and my girlfriend got a house. I have, you know what I mean? It's been tight. I've been pushing my work more. I think this last year, let's see, there's 50 odd weeks in a year, 52. I think for 40 weeks out of that year, I was at art shows. So
Bro.
I've stayed as busy as possible, man, but it's been good. It's been a lot calmer. I think for a while, I would just kind of go crazy and just draw out a necessity and some shit that I ended up putting in books in retrospect I didn't like as much, but I've been good. I feel like I've kind of zenned out. I'm still insane, but I feel like I've zenned out. You know what I mean? You accept it more.
The insanity has balanced itself out.
Yeah, I think it's just overtaken all the other parts. There's no anxiety left to be had because it's full lunacy.
Dude, so I mean, we might have mentioned this. I didn't go back and listen to the last episode we did. I think we were all kind of buzzed on that episode. It was
For sure.
season 2, 20 something, whatever. We were having a good time. But we might have mentioned it before. But when me and Jim were there at your old apartment, we got lost as fuck trying to find our car after we
Yeah.
because it was a weird complex where it was 4 different complexes that all looked exactly the same, but the parking
Yep.
lots were in different areas, and I couldn't remember which way we came from. It was the middle of the night, and me and Jim were ready to just go sleep on your couch. I'm over here clicking the clicker trying to find our rental car. It was crazy, dude. I watched this crappy Jesse Eisenberg movie where him and his girlfriend
Which one? Zane.
Hey.
That's the question. I forget what it's called. I'll probably remember in a second, but it's kind of a sci-fi horror movie, and they go to this.
Oh, all the houses are the same.
All the houses are the same, and they can't escape the neighborhood, and that's how I felt. Dude.
Yeah.
Dude.
Shit sucked.
That movie sucked. It reminded me, if I don't know, we're all really close in age, but if you guys ever watched Pokemon, do you remember I don't know if you remember, there was an episode of Pokemon where they shrunk them and put this in this tiny fucking town. And the whole movie, I just kept being that's that Pokemon episode.
Yeah.
Just over and over again. Because I was it felt like he just ripped that off. There just weren't any battles.
Yeah.
Well, that's the way your old apartment complex felt like.
Yeah, especially at night, dude.
Oh, yeah. Except a lot shittier.
Well, I was happy that there were no battles that night, except between me and Matt.
Yeah. Jim dude. Jim was this is why I didn't want to do this. This is why I didn't.
This is why I never leave California.
I'm pretty comfortable.
Well, dude, because it's
Edmonds town.
yeah, because it's tricky. Because you enter up top, and it goes down a layer. Yeah, and it goes down again, and then the backside, it's the opposite. So you feel like you're entering where you're supposed to, but then you end up at the top area, and you have to go all the way through the apartment complex to get back around.
Yeah. I was ready to fight Matt that night.
Dude, that place sucked so bad.
I'm glad you're not there anymore, bro. Congrats
Dude,
on the new house.
they never put like knobs on the cabinet doors. Like they were supposed to have them, and they just never did it. Like
that was your leaving point. You're like, man, fuck this. No knobs.
No, my leaving point is when they had to fix the toilet in my roommate's room that like I was leasing to him, and they had to cut the drywall out and then fix the hot water pipe, and then they just left this vacant hole in the wall behind the shower where you could just see the pipes. Like they never put a cover on it, never just left this. Like if you had a cat, like that thing would have gotten in there and died. Like they just left that open.
That's so wild,
bro.
Yeah.
Well, this has been fun reminiscing about how shitty your old apartment was. Hence the reason I did not want to go sleep on your floor and was determined to find the truck that night.
Yeah, that was wild.
No, dude, they hooked my AC to an external battery because they didn't want to fix it. So that battery would fill with water and my AC would go out.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, dude. Raleigh apartments are it was like the nice area of Raleigh. Dude, Raleigh apartments are the worst fucking shit in the world, dude. The entire time I lived there, I was like, I have to get out of here.
That's cool, man. But what, like, so I say that's cool. I mean, it's cool you got out of there. My question was going to be like, how much happy or like how much of a relief is it to have your own space, like you and your girl, and like not be in an apartment complex, have like a little room outside? I mean, it's got to make all the difference, right?
Oh, dude, it's amazing. Like, I feel leaps and bounds, like creatively, like discipline wise, above all of that, having like my own space. Cause like I have my office, like I get to spend like as much time with like your person as you want. Like I've got a backyard, so like I can work out there. I let the dog out there. You know what I mean? Like all of the things that I was like, oh yeah, I can't wait. And then when I finally moved, it was like all of those things that just like benefited my life exponentially. Like it makes things so much easier. So it rules. I was like, dude, I don't ever want to go back to leasing an apartment again.
Hell no.
I hated it, dude.
Yeah. Plus you had people like to the sides of you, you had people on top of you, right? It was like, were they 1-story units? I can't really picture your place.
I had the first floor in the middle. So I had a person on each side of me, a person above me, and then a person above me on each side of me. So I was literally like, I was like shoved in between the loudest people in Raleigh. Like the people above me, dude, I thought they were going to fall through the floor because I have never heard anybody walk that loud in my life. It was like stomping at all hours.
Oh yeah, dude. They're just partying. They're just circle pitting.
No, they were arguing. I think it was domestic dispute. I don't think there was any partying going on. They used to throw their trash in front of like the back alley in front of my window in my bedroom. So there was just piles of takeout trash out there.
Nice.
It was awesome, dude. Raleigh, great place, Raleigh.
Great place.
Quality spot.
You guys out there though, man, compared to where we're at. I was looking at them recently out in Raleigh and like the surrounding area. Bro, you guys have houses out there that are housing prices that are unheard of to us Californians.
Oh yeah. Like we're in Nightdale now, like we're only like 10 minutes from downtown Raleigh.
Yeah.
But we're in like Nightdale, and the house we bought was like exponentially cheaper than the houses all around us. I mean, like, what is the typical, like, our house is like a 1950s, 60s, 1-story home. Like, what's the typical run on that in, like, California?
Oh, bro,
depending on where you're at.
In my area here in Redlands,
what did you say, 600?
Like 7, yeah.
700. In San Diego, it's about
that's insane.
900,000, $1 million for a 1950s like craftsman house.
Yeah.
See, that is unheard of. Like the price change is fucking insane. A house like that here, you'd have like stories and those like dumbass gargoyles people put on like their like lamppost outside, like the whitest shit you've ever seen.
You have the fancy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Everything is
dude, that's insane. So it's just that, like, so when you say we had prices we've never heard of, were you talking about like in the cheap side out here?
Oh yeah, dude. I was just looking at somewhere in North Carolina and it was like 120K for like a 12 or 1300 square foot house in a normal area.
Where at?
Oh, you got me. I don't know the towns in your state.
Oh, so it was just like somewhere outside of like
Yeah,
a
it was like
bigger
the
city.
suburbs for sure.
Oh, for sure. It was out in the middle of nowhere. I was looking for like secluded homes in America where I could just escape and not have to talk to people anymore.
Yeah. Like in case you commit some kind of crime,
Yeah,
let's
serial
say.
murder, whatever.
You got to know where to escape to.
Yeah, like it sounds like you're gonna make somebody go missing and change your name and be like, I just wanted to move, man. And it's like, nobody's seen your wife in like 5 years.
Exactly.
Shit, I ain't even seen her. As an amazing artist, my name is amazing artist Hank Simmons, and I'm from North Carolina. And no one's ever gonna see you again, bud.
Hey, I'm fine with it. I've talked about it before. Like, if I could just make art, get the like benefits of not having to have a day job, make comic books that people read, and not have to like be seen, I'm totally fine with it. Like, as cool as it would be to do Comic-Con panels, I don't think I'll ever get there. But it's like, I would be totally fine with bankrolling the same amount and never having to appear. Like the celebrity aspect, I know what you mean, where it's like, I could just stay off the grid, nobody would know me. And it's like, hell yeah. I would greatly enjoy that. But also at times you're like, it would be cool to like do those certain things. But being off the grid and I just send the pages to some publisher and he writes me a check and people are reading it, that would be dope too. I like the off the grid part.
Isn't that the most fucked up thing? Like we all grew up playing music in bands and doing stuff, and all we dream of was like being famous, making it by your music, and everyone knowing your name and your band. And then you get a little older, and it didn't happen, and now you're like, fuck everyone. I don't even want to know anybody. I don't want them to know.
Yo, so this is kind of off topic a little bit, but it goes along with that. I watched this documentary that just came out on, I want to say Showtime. It's called Meet Me in the Bathroom. And it's about the New York like scene in the early 2000s, late 90s with like the Moldy Peaches, the Strokes, Interpol, Liars, like all bands. And dude, the whole thing is basically just how the Strokes wanted to be famous, or Julian Cassavetes wanted to be famous. But then when they got fame, he was like super unhappy about it. I hate everything about this. Like, it's so crazy. It's like, that is the artist mentality though, right? It's like, I want people to like my shit, but I don't want everything that goes along with it.
Yeah, I don't want to be truly famous. I don't want everyone to know every detail about my life, but I do want my art to be seen.
Yeah, it is nuts. It was a really cool documentary.
Yeah. Sorry, I was plugging my phone and I heard that though. That is like really like a bizarre construct with music for sure. And I definitely see where like the Strokes wanted the fame because there's like a enigma aspect to him. I would definitely say, like, I don't hate the Strokes. I think they're pretty good. And I think, yeah, like he has that image where like, I want to be famous, like you want to be recognized. And then it happens and you're like, I don't want anything to do with that.
Yeah.
And when I was a musician, I definitely went through that. I was like, I want to play music because I like to perform. I want to be noticed. And then when I switched to full, it's because the music part is so performative. You're so out there. And I really have to do that. I was like, I don't want to be like wrecking. Like, I'd love to have that level of success for sure. That's the goal. But I was like, I don't want to be noticed every time I walk into Walmart.
Right. Yeah, it's a weird.
You know what I mean?
22 of that kind of dream. You know, it's like, how much are you willing to put up with for that type of success? You're gonna
Yeah, for
be
sure.
come along no matter what once you reach that point. But are you going to be able to deal with it? Number one, and number two, what will that look like as far as how it affects your life?
Yeah, exactly. Bjork, she had like a stalker try like and she was that famous, and it's like I don't really know if I want to be like that much of like the people's people with art where it's like people are like trying to hunt me down and stalk me because they want like my bones for their house or whatever the fucked up reason is.
I think that's like the 1% though of like artists and musicians that actually reach that level of fame where people are
For
stuck
sure.
or like that kind of shit. You know what I mean? It's like we could work on that
Oh,
shit
for
our whole
sure.
lives and not ever get near that level.
Basically, what Matt is saying right now, Hank, is don't worry, you're never going to reach that level.
Yeah, fuck it.
Yeah. It's like, don't even fucking think about it. No one's going to care. And there are parts that are super true. Like, I've been fortunate, like, the last year and some change where, like, the name Blood Sermon, because I did so many shows, like, people will come up and, like, specifically be like, oh, you're, Blood Sermon, or, like, when Emily does a show and I'm not there, they ask. And you meet a lot of interesting people. I've definitely met some people that are just, like, drugged up but super nice. But I've maybe only had, and I'm not shit, but I've maybe only had like 2 or 3 people that have like actually like concerned me. You know what I mean? Where I was like, this person's a little like, but I think that's so touch and go that like it doesn't really happen that often. I think it just the environment or how drunk somebody is can make them come off a certain way. Like no one's putting dead pigeons in my mailbox.
Yeah,
that's
right.
good. That's good.
Not yet.
Yeah, it's good.
Not till I get to North Carolina.
Yeah, he's like, not till I get there, baby.
But I was gonna ask you about that. We kind of touched on it, but you did a ton of shows last year. Like, was that like a conscious effort, or was it something that just kept coming up because you were doing other things that you got opportunities to do more?
A little bit of both. It's definitely the latter half of last year, and pretty much most of this year. I've really pushed like making more prints, doing my, having all of my existing works, try to cycle them into art shows because I've stepped back a lot and really focused on comic books, and there's not anything to show until there's something to show. So it's like I don't have anything to like share and put myself out there. So I sat back and I said, well, if I do a bunch of shows with my existing artwork and I just keep hammering like art events and like art markets and everything like that, then I can keep pushing. Every time somebody buys something, they get a sticker and they walk away, or like they give that sticker to somebody, like my Instagram's on there, somebody can find me. I mean, I used to like go around Raleigh and Durham and I would just slap my stickers up places. And that was like a conscious effort of when I started doing shows and seeing more people wanted to see my stuff. I was like, let me put my name out there as much as possible. I just kind of lucked out that after I did like 5 shows, I started getting recommended for shows. And then the same people that were producing the shows were doing a multitude of shows. So I was almost always guaranteed to be in the next show. And so it kind of just snowballed and it worked out really well. And that's kind of how I want to continue to do it, to where it's not, I'm going to apply to this gallery show and give them one painting and they're going to charge me $150 to apply. And they're going to, you know what I mean? So it's like, if it's going to cost me a fraction of that and I can just go out to this show, make my vending fee back. I lucked out and made more as I did it. And I think that was the main focus of how can I just create what I'm doing and turn it into viable profit so I can keep doing it. And doing those art shows kind of solidified that you can make a little bit of money doing it. You just have to like hammer it every weekend.
Yeah.
When you're just selling paintings, I didn't have a lot of prints. I didn't have a ton of zines. When I have like a stock of books, it's a lot easier because you can just sell them on Instagram, sell them on Twitter.
Yeah, but the one-off original paintings, you don't have a plethora of those to be hustling. Yeah, so then you gotta your shit's worth the amount that it's worth. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You have to make
and the other part too is like the unfortunate world, which is fine. Like people really don't want original art right now. I think there's
That's
like,
a hot take.
Yeah.
well, I think in the sense of if you have prints of a piece, typically people are going to buy the prints before they buy the original. In my experiences, at least out here in North Carolina.
I'll give you that people don't want to pay a lot of money or what we think
Exactly.
is worth the piece. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Although I will say I am a person that likes original art, and I'm still waiting for my original art to come from you, bud.
Yes. Yes. And I agree. Like there's a much larger demographic of like art collectors who are looking to buy original pieces. But when you're just kind of wheeling and dealing at a show,
The
is
show,
what I mean.
definitely. They're looking for a bargain. They're like, "What's the cheapest thing you have?"
Yeah.
All right, is that what you're playing?
Which is totally fine. Like I get it. Like I don't own as much original art from other people that I'd like to own. So I get it. But I think I did so many shows where I only had original artwork, and I was like, dude, I fucking suck. I'm not doing it. And I was like, well, also not everybody's going there with $185 to blow on like a 13 by 13 painting.
Right.
And if somebody else has a 13 by 13 print for $40, they might, you know what I mean? They're probably likely snagged that before because it's such an investment. Like $180 is a lot of money. And so
Really?
that is what really pushed me into doing prints. But that's the hard part of when you're doing art shows, is because like you want to sell the originals. It's a great place to do it.
And you really never know. I mean, unless you're really familiar with the setup of the show and the location and what you've done in the past with those same people, you don't know how things are gonna sell. Sometimes you
Yeah.
sell more than you think. Sometimes you sell less than you think. I thought
Oh
I
yeah.
had a really good show last weekend. I was part of like an art market out here in the desert. A lot of interest, not a lot of sales. It
Yeah.
just depends.
Sometimes those shows are advertisement more than they're
Yeah.
selling. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I always take it as, is like, because if I did it for the money, I would do something else. I wouldn't draw dicks and butts. I would have like learned how to draw landscapes and like gotten into like Juxtaposed magazine. But I wanted to draw what I wanted to draw. And it led me into, working with metal bands and different people, which is cool. But yeah, you walk away from the show and you may go, it cost me $40 to booth this. I didn't make any money. And then a week later, you get people that are sharing the sticker you gave them for free. And it's like, okay, like the circulation is the most important part, because if you're trying to make a career out of it, which is my end goal, it's not everybody's end goal. You go, that circulation is going to like build up to a financial backing for this, financial backing for that. And then I can sit back and do this full time. And I think going into every show, like I used to have the problem with it when I was like 18, 19, of like, I'm here to make money. And it's like, if that's your only goal, you typically walk away like not selling anything. And that's fine. Like, I think too many times people get like bent out of shape, and it's easy to, because money is the most stressful thing in the world.
Well, and if there's like, look, we create art for ourselves, but as soon as you're doing it for more than a hobby, like you said, to
Yeah.
create a career out of it, now all of a sudden it's not a hobby anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the dynamic changes.
Yeah, you have to push in a different way as soon as
Yeah.
you make a conscious choice to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
trying to do something.
Yeah.
And
I think
you're doing that though, bro. That's what I want to point out, is like, over what, 40 weeks out of last year you were doing shows. You're pushing way harder now on like your comics rather than your original art and stuff.
yeah.
You're working with other people, like creating more content, not just uh, originals. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
pushing. And that is the thing though that differentiates just a hobby from, okay, no, I'm trying to make it a career. And that shows, man, in the dedication. Because last time we talked to you, it was kind of, well, I'm doing this zine and I'm kind of fucking around with this or whatever. And it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
the last time we talked to you, because now you're saying, I'm pushing hard, I'm making this my goal, I'm doing this. And there's a
Yeah.
difference in the consciousness that you're putting forth.
Yeah, I think the last time we talked too, the difference was for sure like the early stages of most of the new comic books I've been working on, most of like getting books out. It was all of that like infantile stages of that. And then you flash forward, and now you're at the parts where like I'm closing in on a book I'm going to do with you. I'm like closing in on a couple comics that I'm trying to publish and like release. You know what I mean? So you when you get closer to it, once you get to that point where you're no longer just doing sketches, like same thing with art shows, you start to get into like this really pragmatic side where you're like you like hit the ground running. I don't know how else to say it. Like you hit that stride where now it's all production. So once you started doing a couple of shows where you're like, I'm planning to do these shows, and you're applying and you're applying, and then you get into a couple, then that starts to steamroll, and it kind of builds that confidence of, oh, I could probably get into this show. Oh, I could get into this show. And then you just start moving the tentacles out wherever you can. And I think that's the biggest difference from the last time we talked is like, you know, shit was grim. I was working on other stuff, had other things going on, and everything was in those like super stressful beginning stages of where like you're building a story, like you're building a comic book and you're trying to get everything shaped. And then you're trying to get all these new pieces done that you have good ideas for. And then you can actually start putting pen to paper and start painting. And it pushes you into this different mentality because now you're all about, I'm actually doing it. I'm not just sitting there trying to figure out, okay, how the hell do I draw this leg moving this way? What does this story mean? Now you're at the point where you're actually in the shit. And I think that really, at least for me, and I know it does for you, Matt, like that's what really starts to motivate you is when like you're down in it. You're like, I am right here. I'm hovering over top of it. Like, let's go.
Yeah, so we were just talking about projects that we're doing together, and so can we talk a little bit about what we have coming up next month?
Yeah, for sure. Start it off.
So you came at me, you're like, let's do another book, another zine, because we had done the Do the Damn Thing about a year ago. Was that a year
The
ago?
year, yeah.
Dang, man, that's crazy. So you're like, what do you think about doing another little zine like that? Same format, same just black and white drawings. If you want to be a part of it, you can be a part of it because we also did the collab one, Sick in Bed 7.
Yeah.
Both sick zines, by the way, guys.
So
it turned out great.
Thank you.
And I was like, of course, man, but I've been slacking on drawing, so I was like, let's just make it yours, and then I'll work on a variant cover, and we kind of threw ideas back and forth, and it was funny what came out because they're pretty similar. Like even without talking about everything, a lot of the ideas we had were like right on point with each other. It's very funny. But can you tell me?
Yeah.
Tell us about what I guess the progression of these illustrations that you're including in the zine, like where did it start and where does it come from?
Yeah, for sure. I think, yeah, when we started, we had just been having a chat one day, and I was like, yeah, man, I want to it's been a while since I put anything out, and I sat so long, and I was adamant about doing a Do the Damn Thing too, like immediately. And I was like, yeah, like that's whatever. And the more I sat on it, I was like, I just want to do another book. And all of the drawings I had up to that point were a lot more freeform, a lot more crass, a lot more jokey. And I was like, yeah, man, why don't we just do a different zine? Let's just do another zine. And then we came up with, the darker side of funny. And it kind of spiraled out. And we were like, you literally were like, let's take the 12 or whatever, 20 drawings that you have right now. Let's just do all of those. Let's get it formed. And then I think a week later we had started on the covers. Like it was the fastest I've ever like jumped into a book. And we had like slightly joked about the covers, and because it's such a different book, we were like, well, let's just make them as stupid and as offensive as possible. And it's like simultaneously we were both just like farting fire's funny. And then it just went immediately like we didn't see each other's pencils until we had already started. Like our guys are in like the same pose, like it's the same kind of, and it just made it funnier because you have these two variant covers that are so complementary to each other. And it's just like this dumb, goofy idea we came up with of like summoning like a demon that just is ripping ass. Like it's just so dumb, but it ruled. I was so stoked on it.
No, it's funny too. Is like we weren't like, all right, I'm gonna do like these elements in the illustrations or anything. And then when we started, you started sending me more semi-final, closer to being done formats in the last couple weeks or last week, I guess. And I was like, oh, look at mine. And we had like the same kind of XXX beer bottles. We had like,
Yeah.
we had like melted candles. We had a demon cherub farting fire, which I guess was the original idea, but very similar like pose. It's almost as we were taking like a life drawing class together and just drew it two different ways. You know what I mean? It's very funny.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I mean for sure. And I think like the idea we had could have gone so many different directions between two people. Like you say, oh, it's like a demon farting. And there's so many outlets and avenues you could have went with that. And it's so funny that we both ended up with this like chubby demon that's floating with like the leg up, like it just worked out so well.
Classic.
And then when we started sending each other pictures of it, we really started playing off of each other.
Right.
And it worked out so nicely. It was like, I was like, oh, he's got his in this pose too. Why don't I move my leg the way he put his leg? And oh, his is holding a sign. Why don't I put big, like uncomfortably bubble title letters above mine and just have him holding beer cans? And it like flowed out into this very funny like adaptation of each other's work, but we were like on the same brainwave. It was I've collabed with a lot of people and it's never gone that simultaneously. Most of the time I've had some that I don't even show people. I've had some that like just ended up wonky, some that ended up really well, but it's like you and I were on like the same wavelength from the jump.
Yeah, for whatever reason, I think we both just got the same idea in our head from the get-go. And we're like, all right,
yeah,
this is how we're gonna do it. And we did it in our own ways, but it's still, ink on paper. So it's very, very similar.
Yeah.
Real though, that's kind of been the theme since we met you, bro. Like just on the same page from the fucking jump. Like you
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Podcast, you were one of the first artists represented on the website. Like we met each other. We didn't know each other when this all started, and we met each other, and boom, it was like immediately, nah, that's the guy right there. Like that's our boy right there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I felt identically to y'all. Like I had talked to Matt for a while leading up to it, and without the connection I had with David Moses that got me really interested in Rat Nest, I would have never been able to find y'all, who are the ideal people I would want to work with, over some publisher that wants me to change things and wants me to work around things. I felt like I was young. I'm 27 now. I was like 24 when I met y'all, maybe. And so like I was still like adolescent in what I wanted to create as a comic book artist. And I didn't even really know the idea of making a zine. I didn't really even know that was something that was going to be possible for me to do. And when y'all opened that avenue for me, there was this immediate connection from the jump. And then opening the avenue of like, we'll create whatever you want to create and we can do it together. It just fluttered out into this like really creative thing for me that really honestly made me connect with y'all super tightly, because I was like, these are a bunch of weirdos that get weird stuff. They say dumb stuff like me. They don't get mad when I say something offensive jokingly. Like we're all kind of just dickhead goofballs. And that connection, it's perfect when you work with somebody on a professional level and get to know them on a personal level. And at no point on those two relationships that are so separated do you feel judgment from either side. And that's like the most important thing for an artist, because as soon as an artist feels judged, they start to push themselves less. They start to push the boundaries less, because who's ever representing them says, like, tuck in your shirt, do this, do that, do that, suck in your gut, whatever it is. And y'all never did that. And it made it perfect.
Yeah, man. And let's not overshoot it here. Let's be very clear that me and Jim don't take ourselves seriously.
Nope.
And we also don't take Rat Nest serious as a giant jumping off point for independent artists, or we don't take ourselves serious as someone that's going to skyrocket anyone's career, anything like that. We just became friends, and like it went from there.
Yeah. For sure. And I think that's the best part, because at no point did I ever feel like, oh, like some dickhead corporate publisher is trying to poach me for everything I have just so they can make a couple bucks off my book. It was like homies that were like, hey, I have a nice enough printer, I can print your shit. And it's like, oh shoot.
Well, then,
and like that friendship balanced into something professional, I think is really important.
And then,
go ahead.
I was going to say, on our end, it's the same thing, because at no point where we're like, Hank Simmons is going to make us a bunch of money. We were just like, he's doing cool shit.
No.
And we want to help you do cool shit.
I think our thing is, we recognize that creating that relationship or creating the friendship is way more valuable than any monetary side of it.
And
you know what I mean?
Rat Nest can on itself tomorrow.
Right. But we still get to know all the artists that we've interviewed. We still get that relationship. You know what I mean? And so we recognized early on, fuck, this could be a losing endeavor as far as like us go, and our energy and our time and our money. But look at what we're gaining out of it every single episode. 70 episodes, bro.
Oh yeah.
Over 60 different artists that we've been able to talk to and get to know, and now have like collabs with, or be able to reach out to them, man. And that is invaluable compared to the time we've
And I know I want to go back, because I know that you guys say like, oh, by no means are we a jumping off point for anybody. But to a lot of artists, you absolutely are, in the most genuine way possible, not in this. If people come to any small print publisher and go, I'm trying to make a bunch of fucking money, it is valueless to print their stuff, because they're not going to move their stuff. They're going to blame you for the lack of traffic. They're going to blame how the prints came out, XYZ, versus going, I'm going to take this back and it's on me and it's on you. Let's push each other's work. Let's push my work. Not even to get sales, just to get work out there, so that you on the smallest part have a physical portfolio of work that you've had printed, which if you're going to be a comic book artist is important and it's valuable. And I mean, we've talked about exclusive comic books that I have coming out with you, like ones that I've been working hard on. And like, we had the conversation and we talked, I was like, I don't really want to submit to Image or Dark Horse just to have somebody control my work, when the people that print it, no matter how big or small, are not who's going to push your sales. Just because Image published whatever doesn't secure that book is going to be successful. It just secures that a bigger publisher got it into Barnes and Noble. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I think you guys have this massive benefit to where you work so hands-on with artists. You're seated in the art community in California and the art community in Raleigh, that there's some weight, there's some weight to it that really helps get the name out there on both ends. And it's the representation is a lot higher and more personal than with a lot of different like publishers, if you will.
Well, thanks, dude. That's nice of you to say.
Glad to hear.
You're welcome. Lied through my teeth. Had to help you out.
I know. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
We'll cut that last part out. No.
We're gonna go and cut
honestly,
that clip.
It's been great, like working with you, and kind of, since the start of Rat Nest up until now, it's like I get to see the growth of your work. I get to see what you're doing with other people. I get recommendations through you. People hit me up that say that they heard about us through you, which is amazing. And like, I don't know, man, it's been great to be a homie with you, and just,
Truth.
For anyone listening out there
man.
that is dealing with shit or like has anything heavy going on in their life, whether it's art related or not, reach out to your friends, even if you're not best friends with them. Do my
Yeah.
no means are we best friends, but we talk a lot, and we share like deep shit with each other because sometimes you need like a voice that you aren't completely tied to. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's therapy, man, and like
I think you just made me cry a little bit when you said you weren't his best friend.
Yeah, I just deleted the heart emoji off your name on my phone.
Shit. But you know what I'm saying? Like
No, for sure.
We've both been going through it, man, and it's been so good to be able to like reach out and talk to you and
No
and
bullshit.
and just shoot the shit and kind of talk through whatever we're going through, man. It's nuts.
Yeah.
You
For
know,
sure. When you
I was bringing up to Matt recently, we were talking about you. We talk about you all the time. You're one of the OG rodents, so your name gets brought
nice.
up. And I just mentioned like, bro, have you noticed that like over the last year, Hank's DMs on Instagram have went from way more like fuck you, I hate you to like bro, like you're the man. Like it went from this like love-hate relationship to just all love. You know what I mean? And
I went from
you could go through the DMs and just see the progression of Hank. It's like
fuck you, you piece of shit, fuck you.
Yeah, and then it just turns.
I zenned out. I went from total sarcastic asshole. Yeah. Like I went from like total sarcastic asshole to like half. I've zenned out. I feel like I just kind of leveled out, and I was like, it's funny to say terrible things. Do I need to say it 24/7? Probably not. You know what I mean? I'm learning.
Well, that shows how close we are. Like it goes from having to put forth this sarcastic like facade of like, just talk shit to you to like, no, now we're fucking close. Now you're a homie. Now we don't gotta use that as the bridge to talk and get serious with you.
Yeah.
It's automatically
yeah. Like I mean,
what's going on?
Yeah, you don't have to use like what typically most dudes use is you don't have to use that joking like what's up bitch kind of stuff, and it can gradually turn into like, hey man, I hope you're well, like you look great, and then it kind of flood, and then you go back and forth to where somebody posts something, you're like, this is the dumbest shit ever, you fucking nerd, and then like 2 later you're like, how you been? Like it balances out a little bit.
You get to a certain place where it's like, all right, we don't need to talk shit anymore, so we won't. But then you get to that next level, it's like, well, now how's he gonna know I'm his homie if I'm not talking shit to him?
Yeah, you're like, sometimes like I miss talking shit to you, so it's like I gotta bring it up sometimes. It makes it a little bit better. I think that is like the natural balance of like dudes that become friends, or at least dudes like you guys or I, who are not typically like the most like sensitive people. We joke around, we mess around, and you kind of fall in line with like, oh yeah, like I can text Jim and just be like, hey man, miss you, or I can hit Matt up and just be like, thinking about you, love you, like send nudes, whatever. Like you can just kind of do stuff like that. It feels better.
Well, and like a situation like this where we were talking earlier before the interview, and you were like, why the fuck are cars so hard to draw? And as I've been listening to your ramblings, I just wanted to show you cars are not difficult to draw.
Jim drew a car during the episode. Look at that.
That's literally how my cars have been looking. It's been infuriating me.
Tell me how good that car looked, right?
It's honestly, so that all is like, I've been working on this horror comic and it's modern. So I've had the first like 4 pages have vehicles in them because it's this one scene that I won't tell. And then it's the female character driving into work. So it's cars. And I fucking suck at drawing cars, dude. I've had to like sit here and like, I've been looking at initial D like mangas to learn how to draw cars because they are so hard to draw. And I didn't want to draw like this. Like I saw this independent comic recently and the comic is amazing, but the panel where the vehicle drives is just this flat 2-dimensional panel with the car driving. And it like took away from the whole 2 pages to me because it like felt lazy. And cars are hard to draw. Like it was beautifully drawn. And I was like, I was like, it has to look dynamic. And it has been so hard for me. I can draw aliens with like tentacles. It has been so hard for me to draw cars.
Yeah, I'll tell you exactly why. Is because we don't draw in proportion, especially perfect proportion, and
No.
automobiles are made symmetrically.
Yeah.
It's very hard to recreate that in the way that me and you draw. I feel like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because we're both conceptual artists. Like you and I really don't use a lot of references. If we do, it's just to figure out where a body part goes.
Yeah,
But we
sometimes I
don't.
look at hands. I look at a lot of like hand
Yeah, yeah.
shit, but my hands still look
But
wonky.
you don't look at the whole piece of somebody with their hands up.
No,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's incredibly hard for. I love your style. We've talked about it much because I love your hatching. It is incredibly hard for what we draw to like be able to, like you said, like that's perfect. And they're symmetrical. And you and I do not draw symmetrically at all.
and so I think also to add to that point, it's like so you do kind of like the classic style of where you pencil and then you do like a rough and then you do more of a final
Yep.
after that, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
when I'm drawing the stuff that like we're collabing on right now, I'll do the same thing, but I don't do pencil. So I'll do pen, I'll do a revamp of that, and then I'll try to do a final on top of that. So everything on my end is always going to look a little wonky because I can't draw it perfectly the first try. You know, so
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
sometimes I use those first drafts because I like them better than the final draft, but like something
Yeah,
about
yeah.
it's still like just janky. You know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I know you're supposed to be asking me questions, but you're an artist. How do you get comfortable with not using pencil? Like I can't do it. I have to pencil and ink. I use a light box to like retrace like sketches to get proportions right when I'm like, how do you get comfortable with like, I don't need the pencil, I'm just gonna ink this again? Like
You
I
just
want to be at that level because that's like some of the best ink work is when you just go for it.
I was gonna say you just go for it. Like for me, it's like I just know that everything I do isn't gonna be perfect, and everything I do is gonna be shitty in some way or another.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I mean, I
you
feel the
know,
same way.
you just start drawing it out. You'll see like what you can do, what feels right, what looks right when you're done with it. You keep those feelings in your head, in the back of your brain
Yeah,
somewhere,
yeah.
and then just build off that. But I was never a pencil guy. Like even in college and shit, like I would try to paint or draw. Like maybe it comes from using spray paint and shit. It's like pretty. You got to try
First
to
try.
do it first try or whatever it is. It
It's that first pass stuff.
yeah. But by no means do I think that my drawings are good. Like let's be clear. Let's be
I
clear.
would disagree with you.
But yeah, and even when you use pen first try, like I said, I have to redo it two or three times before I
Yeah,
get
yeah.
to like it. You know what I mean?
That's where you and I are very much the same. And before that, I I like your work. I don't by any means think any of your work is shitty. I think you encapsulate what I got out of for a while that I've been trying to get back into is the just go for it inking, where you're just because the inking, like it tells so much. Like when I did that pin up with the girl with the three tits and like the cigarette,
Yeah.
I just went for it on pencil and it came out so nice. And that was like channeling how you do your work is that confidence and pen to where like for the longest time I've relied on my confidence with penciling to get me to where I can do really nice pen work. And I think it's so impressive when you can just go in with the pen.
So I'm jealous though because I think if I was more comfortable with penciling first, I would have a lot more depth and like a lot more detail to my work. Whereas when I'm using pen, I try to play it safe because I know I kind of want to do it in one shot and I don't want to take a risk and have to erase anything or whatever. Like I said, it's not perfect,
Yeah,
but that I think that's a big
no art is
thing
perfect
to
if it's
do.
drawn by a person.
Yeah, yeah. It's
But
go
what
on.
were you saying? Sorry.
Oh no. I was just saying it's two different things, but it's very similar in the same sense.
Yeah, yeah. I'd love to see you do your inks and then go back in with pencil and then re-ink that part, because
Yeah.
that would give you your depth again. Because your confidence, I know it's an art podcast, so I'm gonna rant. Your confidence is like your ability to outline so well, which I think comes from your graffitiing, where that bold black line is the most important part to artwork. Like for my style of artwork, it's all that little stuff hugged in on the inside with that bold outlining. And it's like you could work your pencil in to get and re-ink that, and you would only amplify what you do. But like everything you do on the inside, it's incredible that you don't use a pencil to make. Because like your posturing is great. Like on the cover, your posturing rules. The way it's lined up rules. Like all parts of it rock. And I think that's super gnarly because it's hard to just go in with a permanent medium. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
Like that takes so much creative confidence.
I tell myself I can clean it up in post if I really need to, but it's very rare that I edit anything once I get a piece done, because I'm very forgiving of myself, and I'm like, all right, this is good enough. Like this is is enough for what I want to put out. Like when you look at Do the Damn Thing and the cover we're talking about, I think your work on the inside is so much more detailed and in depth, and then mine's so kind of like, I don't know, simplistic and a little bit more open on the front cover. And you were like, nope, that's it. We're going to use that. And I was like, all right, that's awesome that you appreciate that, or that you see that's worthy, you know?
The most impressive part to that whole cover is the accuracy of the pointillism. The way that like you can like notch everything and it works. As soon as I saw it, I was like, this is the perfect guest cover for which I always classify my drawings as like overly detailed, which is I'm okay with. And it's the way you did it. I was like, it does what I do, where you over detail the important parts and leave these white spots, anywhere to just catch the highlight where it doesn't, the actual stomach of a drawing doesn't need to be super detailed to me. It's all the wrinkles around it. It's kind of what I mean. So like when you did your lettering, all that dark shadowing behind it and around it, and the boldness of the letter on the outside perfectly encapsulated like how I draw and how fast you did it. Because those drawings took me 100 days to do. I did like an 100-day challenge, and you blew the cover out in like a week's time. And I was like, that was the perfect cover. I was like, this fits perfectly. You do what I do, where you just went for it.
I think it was
and
like
I think that
I was like, I have to get this done because this fool has all the shit to me. And I was like, I told him I would do this. So
if I could,
but it worked out so well. I think without that cover, it kind of just would have been another zine. I would have ended up doing it. I think I would have done the cover worse than you, is what I mean. And I think I really would have, because I would have focused on doing some kind of character instead of turning the letters and the words on their own into some kind of creature. And like people would look at that cover at art shows. Same with Sick in Bed. Sick in Bed sold more than Do the Damn Thing at shows. Because like people really fuck with when our stuff is together. Because I feel like our work complements each other.
Oh, yeah.
And people would look at the cover of Do the Damn Thing and at some points look like disappointed at the art on the inside based on the cover. And I was like, they'd be like, oh, you did the cover? And I was like, oh, my buddy Matt did it, Rat Nest. I'd be like, oh, cool. And like put it down. I was like, I should have told him I did the fucking cover. They would have bought it. And I think like that balance is nice. When you find artists you can collaborate with where the balance works out really well, it kind of only amplifies each other's work. And I think that book worked out really well for two people to collab with.
Totally. Sitting here listening to you guys talk about like the way you work together and like what came of it. I got to point out that this is the beauty of having art friends that you work with, right? Because you're like, oh, my cover wasn't it, and you're like, oh, my parts on the inside weren't it. Like we are our own worst critics, but when you work with an art friend or you have somebody that will give you that true critique, you get to realize, actually, it worked perfectly. It coincided beautifully with this. The symbioticness between them, the pieces are really what worked, and you don't see that on your own. So sometimes
Yeah.
I believe when you get worked up in your own pieces and creating what you personally need to see, you can get kind of trapped in that bubble. But then when you work with somebody and collab on a zine or on a piece, you kind of start to see it from like where they're coming from and where you're coming from, and it allows you to kind of expand on your thought, or not be so critical of your own work, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think for sure. I think it was David Cho, which I know, Matt, you love as well, said in a quote one time, he said, I've never walked away from a painting and liked it. And I think it's because the artist, you always step back from a piece. And like you said earlier, I could have done, and like I said, I could have done this better. I could have done this better. I could have done this better. But it's the reception of the people like Jim and the people like my girlfriend and the people, that you meet around you who go, you don't need, that looks great. Why would you redraw that? And you're like, oh, like that critique. It's great to get critique from people that are super close to you, because they'll, especially when they don't do what you do, they do different types of artwork, they do different mediums. They go, why would you redraw that? Like, it looks perfect. And you're like, oh wow, you don't even think about it. You're like, this looks like shit. It's because you've been hovering over it for 40 hours. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you this too is like I said, we met 2.5 years ago ish, and
Yeah.
just since that time, your illustration and your line work and everything, the quality of your line work has gotten so much fucking better, bro. Just clean. And
Oh yeah, no, I appreciate that.
very excited to release this zine with you next month, to show off some of your work, man.
Yeah,
and
bro.
these recent
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I got to send you a picture. So I did a shrunken head 2 years ago, and I kind of redid that shrunken head later. And the difference between it is like bonkers. And you don't think about that. Like, I look at, that drawing with meat wad in it, and like I look at it every time, I'm like, dude, this came out so nice.
The best.
And you start to realize it's that difference of just sitting down and drawing.
Yeah,
I
dude.
think for a while I was tentative, and I was like, here's what I have. We can make a book. And it worked out. It went really well. People liked it. And then and I appreciate it. And like you said, you look a year down the line, and everything has gotten so tight, and everything has gotten so purposeful. For the longest time when I would ink, it was just kind of to color in a dark area. And now it's like there's a purposeful blocked out area that's being, blacked out, being colored in. And like I'm using different mediums, and like I'm learning to do different things that give me darker tones, lighter tones. And I'm learning to work with negative space, which has only really helped me. And I think for the longest time, I was scared to like really work in really dark areas when I'm drawing. And so everything was kind of scratched at and kind of dark, but not super heavy.
Tell me that is not the epitome of the artist, though, what you just said. Really
Yeah.
to work in the dark and negative space. That fuck, bro.
Yeah, for sure.
That's
I mean, Rembrandt's like the king of it. Yeah, I think, yeah, for sure. I think it's learning how to draw in your style, and then it's learning the elements of art. Like, I didn't go to college. Like, I dropped out of college because I went to jail and had to like ride a bike for a year and get a fucking mechanic job. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not that educated in artwork, but collegiately, but I sat down and focused on the elements of artwork, the texture, the color, the shading. And I was, cross hatching is an amazing way to get texture. So I said, I can get contrast, shading, and texture through cross hatching and hatching. So I just learned how to utilize hatching. So it gave me those elements of drawing while still being essentially a caveman. Like, I'm like over there, like cross hatching someone's ball sack in a, you know what I mean? Like, but you learn those elements, and it kind of helps you as an artist, no matter what the reputation you have is, or your education, or whatever people want to call it. You learn on your own to create, and you learn what the fundamental is learning those elements. You learn what drawing is. You don't have to be great at it. You can draw differently, but when you understand those elements, especially when it came to my painting, because I've always considered myself a better painter than a drawer, you learn those elements of shading and contrast and what complementary colors and what conflicts with this color. And when you can balance that out, you can create something really beautiful without having to draw something incredibly like thought provoking. You know what I mean?
That's the truth, bro. Ain't that the truth?
Honestly, I think that's that's where we're gonna end it, bro. That's the perfect thing to wrap it up on.
Beautiful. Love it.
Yeah, man.
I love you, boys.
I love you, my guy. I miss you. I'm glad your life is going better than it ever has, and it's good catching up with you, bro.
Yeah, man. What
We're
are you
trying, baby?
Get out of here.
I love you, boys. See you guys later. Be ready for the new shirt drop. We got a couple comic books coming out. Follow me on Patreon so you can see the new comic book that's coming out, because I'm trying not to share it because it's a good idea, and I hope nobody rips me off because it's not copywritten, baby.
AI art, get you, bro.
New shirts and a new zine coming out in February through Rat Nest from Hank.
Yep. Thank you for that artwork.
Yep.
Fucking sick.
With an alternate cover by Matt.
Yay. All right, dude.
Be ready, guys. Thank you guys so much. I love you, boys. Stay safe. Be positive. Send love to everybody.
You're the best, bro. Appreciate
All love,
you.
Hank.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Talk to you soon.
Later, bro.